Hello and welcome to Greeting Star. Today we're going to be making a birthday card that you can see here, and we're just going to be using some Distress Oxide inks and applying it directly to the page, and then using some die cuts to cut out the sentiment that you can see there, happy birthday. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 80-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. We're going to be using the Distress Oxide inks in Broken China, Cracked Pistachio, Spiced Marmalade, Fossilized Amber, and then also a little later on I'm going to bring in some more worn lipstick. And then that gold that you saw on the card was these Crystal Nouveau drops in bright gold. Now usually these are used to create embellishments on your card, like little pearls, but today I'm just going to smush it with my finger so it creates a nice little gold line. So the technique is just taking the ink pad directly to the paper there, and I'm just going to smush that on, and then I'm going to smear it with my finger so it becomes a solid block. And I'm going to use each color 3 times. At least I try to 3 times, because when you do things in multiples of 3, it usually draws the eye, captures the attention. And I'm trying to keep the same colors separate from each other, so the same colors don't come into contact with each other. Now this is a real fun technique. I've always enjoyed getting my hands a little bit dirty and messy and playing around with ink and things like that. I think it's fun. And one of the things you'll notice about Distress Oxide ink is when you first apply it, the color is a little bit, I'm looking for the right word, brighter. After it dries, it kind of tones down a bit. But this was a real fun card to make. And I'm just using a baby wipe there to wipe off my fingers. And now I'm going to move into the Spice Marmalade. This is the Spice Marmalade. So I actually only use the Spice Marmalade twice and the Fossilized Amber once, but I do use the Broken China and the Cracked Pistachio 3 times each. So that's gives it a little more bit of an interest there. So I do decide to use a piece of paper underneath my card just so that I don't keep getting it all over the Tim Holtz glass media mat that I'm using there as a work surface. But I will say that it really doesn't matter, because this is just the front panel and it's going to be adhered to the card base, so nobody's going to see the back of this particular piece. It'll just have the adhesive on the back of it, so it doesn't really matter. But I didn't want to get it all over my fingers or anything, so I mean all over the sides of my hands, and then smear it on the card where I didn't want it. So I just use a piece of paper underneath there. So then I'm going to use the Cracked Pistachio here. And once I get all the colors on the card, one of the things I try to do is sort of blend and blur the 2 boundaries where 2 colors come into contact with each other, because I don't want to see just a bunch of squares on the page. I want it to look a little more artsy, for the lack of a better term. So what's great about this technique though is, I mean, you can play around and just have lots of fun. You don't really have to like worry about anything. Just have fun with it and experiment and see what colors you like that go well together, and you'll learn which ones you don't like together. And also, I mean, you can use any color you want. So depending on who it's for, if it's for a young person, maybe you want to go with brighter colors, or if you don't have the Distress Oxide ink, you can probably use pigment ink to do this, because pigment ink doesn't absorb directly into the page, so you'll have some time to smear it. Dye ink, this will not work with, because the dye ink gets absorbed into the paper almost as soon as you put it down, so it'll be very difficult to smear it like this. You could probably use gelatos as well. Those are a Faber-Castell product, so you can use gelatos, or even maybe some oil pastels like the Craypaw or something like that. So here I'm just adding some ink to some of the white spots that I could still see through the card, and I'm trying to blur the edges a bit. Like I said, I didn't want to have just like a bunch of squares that were very delineated. I wanted to blur those lines between. And then here I went ahead and put some, I thought that orange was a little bright, so I added some fossilized amber. But you know what? It tones down anyway, like I said, once it's completely dry, so you don't really have to worry about that if you don't want to. Just have fun playing around. And then I'm going to play with this for quite a bit, just going over it until I really like the look of it. Here I go ahead and put a straight line all the way on the bottom on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side in a moment. But then I go back in with the pistachio and change the bottom of it again. I don't go all the way around the card. This is just, I'm just trying to pull the images together, sort of, I guess is what you would say. This was a fun card to make. I really enjoyed doing this because I just kind of sat down and said, okay, I want to create a background with a bunch of different colors. And this was a quick, easy way to do it using just my fingers and no tools. So that's kind of cool. I like doing that a lot. The less tools you have to use, the less you have to put away. So here I am again trying to blur some of the edges of this card. And I'm going to go ahead now and play some music for you so you can just enjoy watching the card being made. So now we're going to use some Crystal Nouveau drops, and instead of making drops, I'm just going to draw a straight line across the page on 3 different spots. Now, in retrospect, I would have lowered that third line almost to the bottom of the card, but I didn't. And then I was just using the rest to get it off of my finger. And now I am going to make some drops with the Crystal Nouveau drops. So you just squeeze a little bit out and pull directly up. And when those dry, they'll dry as little round beads. So I think that looks really neat. Very artistic, abstract looking. So it's lots of fun. And then all you have to do is adhere it to a card panel. And you can see here the original card, and it's definitely, the colors are much more muted. So anyway, I hope you have fun doing that. Now this is a Sizzix Thin Let's Die. It's by Tim Holtz. You can see the happy and the birthday. And the number here is, I believe, 6620223. And I just used some foil paper that I purchased from the dollar store to cut out. And you can see the strip there that I used to cut it out. And then I adhered it using a glue pin. And that's the Elmer's glue pin. It's a fine line pen. So it's called Craft Bond Fine Line Glue Pen. And all these products will be listed down below in the description. So I hope you enjoyed watching me make this card today. And thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful day.